This podcast is an affiliate of BCW Supplies. The next time you need to restock on comic book bags, boards, boxes, and more, be sure to use promo code FSP to save 10% on your order. That's FSP for Flat Squirrel Productions. It helps support the show too. Thank you. Single Bound is a new podcast series hosted by married couple Amy and Logan as they review single issues of comics. And if the title makes you think of Superman, you're not alone, as the Man of Steel is a regular topic of discussion. Listen and subscribe on Spotify and YouTube, and follow the show on Instagram at Single Bound Podcast. My love of the TV series Smallville is well documented, and there's one rewatch podcast that's always at the top of my queue. Zach Moore's Always Hold On to Smallville, which will continue with more great Smallville and Superman talk even after their series coverage concludes. Listen wherever you get podcasts. In the 1950s, George Reeves embodied the Man of Steel in Superman's first television adaptation, from its gritty black and white beginnings to the kid-friendly color years. To this day, an entire generation reveres George as their Superman, while for others, the show remains an overlooked, underrated chapter in the character's history. On this podcast, we bring everyone together as we break down each episode of Adventures of Superman, examining it within the context of the series itself, as well as the larger Superman mythology. Welcome to another exciting episode in the Adventures of Superman. I'm your host, Anthony Desiato. Joining me to discuss Season 3, Episode 3, The Lucky Cat, is returning guest Rich Roney. Welcome back.
Good afternoon, everybody. Happy to be here.
We're just rocking and rolling through Season 3, the color era of Adventures of Superman. In this one, we have an unknown assailant targeting members of the Anti-Superstition Society. This aired on May 7th, 1955. Written by Jackson Gillis, directed by Harry Gerstad. Our guest cast, Harry Tyler as Mr. Botts, the landlord, Carl Hubbard as Mr. Fredericks, the steward, Ted Stanhope as Charlie King, and Charles Watts as Bill Green. Overall thoughts on this one?
This, I thought, was a little bit of a departure, right? The whole theme of superstition and defying superstition. I do want to unpack this. There's moments in here that we'll have fun with and we'll kick around. This was not the strongest episode. This was not the strongest.
I wanted to ask you a personal question to kick us off here. Are you at all superstitious, or in the words of Michael Scott, a little stitious?
I guess I'm going to adhere to Michael Scott. There's a few things I'm quirky about. I'll give an example. There's a real big meeting they're trying to set up for the future, and they want it to be on April 1st. I really don't want to be, this is a big project. I don't want everyone to think, oh, April Fool's Day.
Oh, interesting.
I know that there's things I don't give credence to, but I do know that my grandfather, my mother's father, was a little bit, he had a lucky tie. So if he had an important meeting to go to, or he was trying to make a sale, he would wear his lucky tie to it.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I guess like rationally, when I think about any of this, I don't put stock in it. But yeah, I definitely grew, and it's not that my parents were overly superstitious, but I definitely grew up with, you don't walk under a ladder. It's bad. It's quote unquote bad luck if you break a mirror. But I don't know if I were to encounter those situations, like I don't know how much that would really dictate my actions. And certain things have never really been on my radar. Like not too long ago, my son and I were at the nature center, and a black cat walked by us. Didn't think about that twice. Same thing with like walking on cracks on the sidewalk and things like that. So certain things don't register at all. But like, if we were talking and I said something that might arguably tempt fate, and I were near a piece of wood, would I say, knock on wood? This is not real wood, but would I? Yeah, I would, just out of habit. But when I think about it rationally, it's like, oh, I know. But I think there's maybe some sense of like, don't tempt fate.
No, it's funny. On occasion, I'll be like some of the office transitions I've worked on where we had big projects. If we're in a meeting, just for humor or to, put a little bit of levity, I go, well, let's knock on wood and hope the shipment comes in by then, and just tap the desk or something like that. But I don't put credence in it. Like, oh, thank God, we're safe now. I don't put credence. The other thing I will say, and I was going to save this for later. This reminds me of the ending of No Holds Barred so much. I was dying, Anti-Superstition, and then the only real magic, the magic of knowledge. I was dying. I was hoping they'd put a button on this episode where they'd replay that same thing.
Yeah, I know, that would have been great. Oh man. Well, my last question on this note, back when you used to smoke, and I know you don't anymore, did you ever light 300 cigarettes with 100 matches?
No.
I didn't know that was a thing. But
I didn't either, Anthony. And I would say 40, 45 years ago, I would, if a bunch of us were going out to happy hour on a Thursday or Friday night, yeah, I would smoke. I remember coming home a few times and my mother going, "Where have you been?" Because my clothes reeked of it. But no, that surprised me. Some of the quirky things they put in here surprised me.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, let's get into it here. Clark and Jimmy are confronted by an irate landlord when they show up at the headquarters of the Anti-Superstition Society to do a story. Its members, including businessmen Green and King and steward Fredericks, defy superstition by walking under ladders, stepping on cracks, breaking glass, keeping a black cat on the premises, and they record all of this in their register here. What were your impressions of this club here, these guys?
That's funny. I do. Okay, on plus and minus side, I thought this was pretty far-fetched, right? But I do know back ages ago, say in the 40s and 50s, there were more clubs. Like there were certain clubs devoted to Sherlock Holmes where a whole bunch of people would get together.
Now everyone just has a podcast. but honestly, yeah, it used to be, I mean, you and I both have a great love for the Honeymooners. They had the Raccoon Lodge, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, now this used to be a thing.
I thought this served a purpose. They needed an episode. I thought this was very Clark-centric. Superman didn't have a lot of play in this one.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it's a clever hook, right? The idea that these people want to combat the superstition that people believe in, and they want to prove, like, no, look, we're doing all of these things that they say is bad luck, and we're fine. So it's a clever, interesting hook. Not to be a jerk, but I'm listening to them explain themselves, and I think it's Green who talks about how the guys, they were tired of their luncheon clubs, and they decided to form this midnight snack club and devote it to defying superstition. And I'm just saying, like, you guys need to get laid or get some other hobby. Like, you guys have too much time on your hands. But it's like, okay, fair enough. My other big thing that stood out to me in this opening scene in the club here is when Clark meets Charlie King. Huge clue, right? Right from the jump. And he's like, "I'm Charlie King of King Chemical." Well, I used to be. I don't have any contracts anymore. Yeah. It's like, oh, okay.
Well, now, Anthony, I will say there's only 3 people in this club.
Yeah. And look, any of these episodes, right? Like, it's always a very limited pool, but it's right from the jump. It's like, no, that might be important for later.
Yeah. There's only 3 people in the club. And it did strike me watching this that aside from King, I recognized all the other character actors. I've seen them in other things, all of them.
Look, generally, I sing the praises of the guest cast that come through here. Some wonderful character actors and day players who come through and they bring a lot of life to the proceedings that they're jumping into for these episodes. What was your impression of performance-wise of Charlie King? Because he did not work for me in this episode.
He didn't work for me either. I know you to your credit have kind of like worked out the timeline, but he didn't work for me. I'm going to jump ahead. The fact that he later in the episode planned an explosion in his own factory, and then he didn't estimate it well because he could have easily been killed had Superman not stopped the thing. So he didn't do it for me on a personality level, or he didn't have the thought process to sabotage things in his own factory properly.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I mean, I think writing wise, I think they let him down a little bit here, but yeah, I don't know. Just in terms of what the actor brought to it, I don't know. Or I feel like,
yeah, it was you could see it coming. It was like a light at the end of the tunnel.
That's the thing. I feel like he just overshot the mark in trying to come off as like too casual at the beginning. And then when we get to the end and he's playing that fear, it's like so extreme in the other direction. I feel like we just needed to recalibrate and like get back to the center a little bit. But what are you going to do? Okay, so back to our rundown here. Clark changes into Superman to save Green from a weakened support beam underneath the floorboard, but the men's club is skeptical of any bad luck or wrongdoing. And when they ask Clark, like, how did you know about that? He says, just lucky, I guess. Well, no place for luck here. But it was good. I forget exactly where in this opening sequence this falls, and I also forget the exact wording of the line, but Clark says something to the effect of, I only believe in the things men do. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
I like that line.
Yeah, it seems very Clark and Superman-esque, Yeah, what struck me, right, as we reflect on this, and I'll give you a foreshadowing. I didn't think this is not one of my favorite episodes. I'm probably going to be critical later when we get to it, but once again, Jimmy is comedic relief. I mean, there was such a disparity between Clark and Jimmy, and especially as Jimmy progressed through this thing. I saw you shaking your head. I'll let you.
No. I agree. I mean, it's very clear Clark and Perry. I mean, we're told more about Perry than we actually see, but it's very clear, like Clark and Perry, like they're very much in agreement. Like they don't buy into this and they want to do a story and they want to celebrate the efforts of this club. Jimmy, I think, wants to be part of that, but I think the superstition does get the better of him, and he takes to carrying around the horseshoe and the rabbit's foot and all that stuff. So, but I thought the episode did a solid job of playing that piece of it for humor.
Even as he ran under the ladder very early in the episode, he kind of like jumped under it. He was so hypersensitive to not incurring bad luck.
Yeah, absolutely. The next day, just as Clark and Henderson begin warning other members, an unknown figure starts a fire at King's chemical factory, which Superman puts out. I'm
sorry. I did want to bring this up. Like I said before, this seemed to be a very Clark-centric episode. What at first I thought was totally superfluous, but then I know why they did it. So that one scene that you referenced when the one guy, was it Green, is like jumping on one foot, right? And Clark realizes, holy cow, one of those support beams is really in bad shape. You're going to go through the floor. Clark sees it with his x-ray vision. He tells the guy to stop. Then he like sneaks away, but he undoes his tie. There was no need. There was no need for him to change to Superman to go down and brace the beam. But kids had to see it. Kids had to see Superman in costume. So it in no way added. Clark was the only guy in the basement. He could have easily stayed in his Clark Kent suit, fixed it, come back upstairs. So I thought the only reason was we got to let the kids get a glimpse of Superman.
Yeah, no, I agree. That stood out to me as well. I guess I think you're spot on as to the reason why. In fairness, though, the show is consistent with this, right? It's like any time, other than occasionally using his x-ray vision or his hearing, or if he needs to bend or break something like very quickly. But when he's doing anything of substance involving his powers, he always changes to Superman. So I agree. It's probably for that reason, but at least they're consistent with it. It's kind of like, if we're trying to come up with an in-story accounting for it, it's like, yeah, he has this rule. Like if he's going to do Superman stuff, he's going to be Superman.
That's a good point. A consistency, a uniformity. Like, look, if he's doing Superman's, like other than a microsecond or a nanosecond to break something or do it off where no one sees it.
Right. Speaking of doing Superman stuff, what did you think about how he put out the fire? No super breath here. He used water.
I was so impressed with the whole hose because they filmed it so carefully. I was impressed with that when, Oh,
Wait, you're talking about the tear gas at the
Yes,
end? No, I was
I'm
talking
sorry.
about when he puts out the fire at the chemical factory.
Oh, that really didn't trigger one thing or one way or the other.
Yeah. I didn't lose sleep over it, I noticed it. Clark joins Lois and Jimmy, who are snooping around the clubhouse when they are locked in the basement by an unseen perpetrator. Clark is surprised to see who it is with his X-ray vision, but he keeps Lois and Jimmy and the audience in the dark. Clark surreptitiously magnetizes Jimmy's horseshoe and gets them out, then uses his X-ray vision again to spot the mystery figure rubbing poison on the cat's claws. So I mentioned this when we talked about the season 3 premiere. This is a perfect example of what kind of grinds my gears with a lot of these color episodes where, and I know Clark only knows what he knows because of his enhanced abilities, but still there comes a point in the episode where, in my view, there's really no reason to not share what he's learned with Lois and Jimmy and then later Henderson, other than to maintain the suspense for the audience and keep the episode going. And it's like stuff like that just kind of annoys me a bit. But overall, this whole business about being locked in the basement and trying to get out and all that, how did that play for you?
What I loved, my favorite moment in this episode was just before that, when Lois and Jimmy are down in the cellar in the basement, and they're on different sides of the door. And Jimmy's got like a big piece of wood. He's ready to clock whoever walks in. I just loved it how Clark was so nonchalant. Hey, Jimmy, just like walks through the door. Clark was so cool. Yeah. I mean, he was so cool. Very confident, totally selfish. Hey, Jimmy. And, fortunately, Jimmy didn't swing at him. But Clark was the epitome of cool. I could appreciate it, kind of a throwback to Through the Time Barrier, right? They're down, locked in there. No one knows they're there. So in this instance, Clark was resourceful, taking the Jimmy's horseshoe and rubbing it at super speed, I guess, to magnetize it, and then hey, Jimmy, did you check this door? I mean, it was a de facto way to get out. It wasn't Superman. It wasn't worthy of him. But, again, this was like filler in the episode.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of those things. Look, so many episodes put Lois and or Jimmy in mortal peril, and it's like, well, they're going to be fine. But here it's taken to another level because Clark is with them, right? Like, they're not in any danger. The only real tension in the scene is, well, how is Clark going to get them out without revealing his identity? But even that, it doesn't, in the end, take much to do it. So, like I said, it's just not, you don't really feel much tension or urgency here with this.
The other thing that occurred to me, even as a child, even if they stayed in there, isn't like Perry going to come looking for them sooner or later? Right. I mean,
well, although I think, because I skipped over this in my recap, but there is that scene of Lois and Jimmy deciding to go investigate. Themselves. And she's like, I'll finish up early today and we'll go. So I think they probably did this one off the books, in fairness. But again, once Clark is there, it's like, we're not in any trouble here. But after they let themselves out, Clark asks Henderson to wait while he, as Superman, intervenes in a standoff between police and Mr. Botts, the landlord and prime suspect, right? Because we open the episode with him, and I didn't mention this specifically, but you open the episode and it looks like this old guy is like screaming at the camera, but then you find out that he's talking to Lois or Clark and Jimmy as they're approaching. But he's the likely suspect here. He's very dismayed by the way his property is being used by this Anti-Superstition Society. So there's this police standoff, and they throw tear gas. They're tear gassing this old man, very severe. But Superman shows up and inhales all of the smoke and then blows it out the window. Now, the blowing it out the window, they don't show his face at all. But it's like, all right. But the inhaling of it, I thought they did a great job with that. And that's what you were getting at before.
That's what I confused putting out the fire with the tear gas. And, for super economical, no pun intended, for tremendously economical special effects, I commended them on, hey, let's put the hose right next to his and film it from an angle and then do it in reverse, right? So it looked like he was inhaling it. No, that seemed to, just show his superpowers.
Yeah, no, for sure. Returning to the headquarters as Clark, he brings the black cat around the members, with only King reacting in fear, abject terror, I would argue, as he was behind it all and had set fire to his own failing factory to try to collect the insurance money. So this is the real kind of like whodunit finish, right? Like where Clark shows up and he's going to prove who it is.
I'm so glad you brought that up. This seemed to track. I mean, I can remember recently I saw some of the William Powell, Myrna Loy Thin Man movies. I guess they were made in the I know they were made in the 1940s. I think there was about 6 or 7 Thin Man movies. But I've also seen it on Hercule Poirot mysteries, where they assemble all the characters, all the characters get together. And then, in this case, Clark solves it, right? But I've seen other detectives, whether it be the Thin Man or Hercule Poirot or Charlie Chan. But usually they're asking a question and one person says something and it contradicts what somebody else had said earlier. And that's how they discern the bad guy. Here, I was glad that we were able to see Clark's driving gloves from the episode with the Corky the dog.
Yeah.
So Clark did get some mileage out of his driving gloves. But to your point, you brought this up a few minutes ago. Did he really have to go through all this? I mean, okay, so you had the guy have a meltdown in front of 2 other people as witnesses, but wasn't there enough where you could have proved King was the bad guy without going through this theatrics? So,
yeah, I think it's one of those things where that kind of ending can be really cool and effective, but I don't think this was the kind of story or mystery that really justified it or earned it.
It wasn't intricate enough. It wasn't weighty enough. It would have been intriguing had they done it. I wish they would have done it more with Clark's intellect without the Superman powers. I would have liked that.
No, perfect. I agree with that. I think that would have elevated things a little bit where it's like, oh no, he really figured it out. But it's like, no, he just used his X-ray vision and saw King doing this, but then made a big show as if he had deduced it using his reasoning alone.
Right.
So,
I would have liked it more if they didn't immerse themselves in the superpowers, but if his own intellect, if his own knowledge, if his own deductive powers had discerned what was going on. Now, what angered me was, if he knew who it was, why did he let himself get locked in the basement? If he knew King was in the building, right? With all his X-ray vision, he should have realized, hey, why didn't he realize?
We come up against this, and I think the only conclusion I can come to is like, I think I always think about it in terms of, like if you had Superman's powers and you're investigating, like, wouldn't you just do a scan?
Yeah.
But I don't think he does. I think that's the point. It's like he doesn't until the door closes. And then he's like, oh, I better see who's on the other side. But I don't think like he shows up and does a scan with his X-ray vision.
Yeah, because didn't Lois say something like, oh, that must have been you upstairs?
Yeah.
So.
Yes. And then he's like, no, it wasn't me. Yeah. So I think overall, I honestly do like the setup of this and the idea of the Anti-Superstition Society. It's clever. It's a cool little setup. But I think if they were, and the other thing too is like, if they wanted to make this a mystery, but it just, I don't think there was enough there.
And you know what? To things we've discussed before, I truly think there should have been some ability, even if they mined some of the old radio shows, come up with more of a mystery, a bona fide, authentic mystery. The hook here was the superstition, right? That was the hook. But boy, that was a small club with only 3 guys.
Yeah, I know. So do you think, and maybe I missed this, or maybe it's not there, but is our conclusion that King actually does believe that he's been subjected to bad luck because of all these things that he's done? Or no, like he just thinks his business failed on his own, and this is an opportunity to target these, make it seem like someone is targeting members of the society, but he doesn't actually think it's bad luck. Because he says something at the very end to Clark about knocking on wood. So I don't know. Is he actually a believer after all?
That's so intriguing. That is so intriguing. I mean, I can track with the fact, was it Green? He could have gone through the broken support beam, and I don't think he would have fallen all the way to the basement, but he could have been seriously hurt, or, the wood he could have broken a leg or something like that. So I track with, hey, let me throw off let me get suspicion away from me individually by threatening the other members. I track with that. But it just seemed, as you alluded to a few minutes ago, Clark really went out of his way. I mean, I did like the fact that it tracked with other conventions of mysteries where you assemble all the characters and the detective figures it out and boom, you got the bad guy. Here, it seemed unnecessary.
All right. So on a scale of 1 to 5, Great Caesar's Ghosts, how many are we giving this one?
1.5.
Okay. I'm a little torn here because I really think this is a 1 for me, but then I'm like, well, we're just starting the color era. I mean, am I saying this is, because I don't know, could I give 0 ghosts or 0.5? I mean, I guess I could if there was something I really, okay, I'm sorting this out in real time. I'm going to go 1 for this, but I'm leaving myself the option if I encounter something that I truly feel is like the absolute worst, I can go 0.5 or 0. Even though I know I said the scale is 1 to 5, but I'm giving myself a little bit of wiggle room here because I can't yet say, oh, this is the worst. But based on everything we've talked about, like it's really hard for me to kind of go above a 1 on this. So I'm going to say 1.
You know what? I'm going to revise mine to 1.
Okay.
I'm going to revise mine to 1. What I did find appealing, I was impressed with the character actors, like the guy that played Green. He seemed to, make it energetic and charming. So some of the actors, King was a failure for me.
Yeah,
but
Green was good. I agree. Yeah.
But I thought this was kind of a stretch. And for my one single moment when Clark walks through the door frame, hey, Jimmy, that just showed Clark being really cool. But this really didn't have substance or weight to it as a story.
Yeah. All right.
1.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining me. You're going to be back in a couple of episodes for Great Caesar's Ghost. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yes. I still have to watch that. I've got some time.
Yes. All right. Well, I look forward to that. Thank you, Rich. Thank you, audience. Make sure you come back next time for another discussion. And until then, as always, remember, only Superman can do super things. If you have children and have been looking for a family-friendly store, look no further than Aw Yeah Comics. Visit one of their 3 locations, Harrison, New York, Muncie, Indiana, or Skokie, Illinois, and check out awyeahcomics.com for more. Their name says exactly how they feel about it. Aw yeah! Fat Moose Comics, established in 1982, is New Jersey's best and oldest comic book store. Moose has that rare, old-school comic shop feel and camaraderie, yet also remains a welcoming space for new fans. Visit them in person or reach out via the Fat Moose Comics Facebook page. Whether you're an independent filmmaker or you just love movies, don't miss these New Jersey film festivals. Brightside Tavern in Jersey City, Hang On to Your Shorts in Asbury Park, and Round Reel in Bloomfield. Submission information for filmmakers can be found at filmfreeway.com. Support the show and receive exclusive content, including the spin-off podcast Beyond Metropolis, by becoming a member at patreon.com/Anthony Desiato. My sincere thanks to all patrons. Please subscribe, rate, and review today via your platform of choice, and continue the conversation by joining us on social media. Links are in the show notes. Flat Squirrel Podcast is also home to Digging for Kryptonite, a Superman fan journey, a long-running weekly series mining Superman's vast mythology across time and media. Subscribe today.